Hello. I hope by the end of this that you agree with me that people that play sports should not use nicotine. That nicotine is really bad for sports players, in my opinion. And I know people have other opinions, and some people do not agree. I have been told that nicotine is really good for sports players, that it really lifts them up. But kids that play a lot of sports using nicotine, it really hurts your lungs, especially if you like smoke, and it can really cause problems with your running and training and different things. So when you go to use nicotine, think about your sport coming up, and even if you're in the off season. Even though nicotine can be found in little things like cauliflower, potatoes, and tomatoes, nicotine is in different types of stuff that we eat, but it's not in large amounts. And I know people say that large amounts, small amounts, same thing, but it's really not. A small amount of nicotine does not bother you, but if you're doing dip, chew tobacco, or smoking it, it is a large amount of nicotine, so it does bother you. I know I've heard people use jewels, which contain nicotine, to get a small high off of it, which is not good. And I know that, therefore, many years people have been able to use nicotine in sports, and one is, for instance, is baseball. I know a bunch of baseball players that do dip while they are playing, and their coaches are fine with it because it just kind of keeps them focused. And many years ago, that was okay, but now times are changing, and more things are coming out about nicotine that can be very harmful for your body. Nicotine has a very harmful effect on your body, and if you continue to put your body through it, in many years, you'll see the effects of nicotine on your body. And so my three main points I'm using is: review your physical performance while you're using nicotine, the counter argument of that you should use nicotine, and the overall characteristics of nicotine. When you start training and using nicotine while you're doing it, it's very off. When your physical performance can deteriorate fast during a sport, even if you're not meaning to for it to happen. And I know I've seen volleyball players do it 100 times. They smoke and then they go to the weight room and they can't do as much, or they smoke before a game and they're not as fast and they get out of breath easy. So it really can tear down your muscles. And when your muscle strength isn't up to what you need it to be, then that's the problem. That's the problem coaches have. When you use your muscles throughout the game, your whole body is a muscle, and muscles are very important. So when you use nicotine and your muscles aren't working correctly, then that's the problem that all coaches have. And when you think about it, you don't see the point in why coaches have a problem with it, because I've heard people say, well, that shouldn't be a problem because it's mine. It has nothing to do with them, but it does. You're on their team. So when you think about it, even if you're smoking in the off season and it's really hurting your muscles, so when it is time for you to play the sport, you have the problem of you're tired, your lungs, you can't breathe. So many things have problems with using nicotine. And so next is, nicotine can be highly effective for your performance. I've seen many times where statistics say that using nicotine before a game can really boost your energy because you get a small high off of it. But when you get addicted to nicotine and you have to do that for every game, is it really worth it in the end? I know there's some Major League players that have nicotine patches that they stick on their arm before a game so they can get like another boost of energy. But will you really want to have to do that every single game and really just have to wear that all the time? I know if you use it, that doesn't make a good name for you. Yeah, that player right there has to wear a nicotine patch because he has to have that for him to be able to play well. I know many people don't think about it that way, but that's the way that most people's brain goes to, is the downfall of nicotine. And I know there's some people that think nicotine is amazing, but it really can cause an addiction. Just that little patch can make you addicted to it. I mean, you can say that eating in potatoes and tomatoes can make you addicted to it because it has nicotine in it too, but it really doesn't. It's such a small amount that you don't even know you're eating it. I bet you didn't even know that it had nicotine in it until I just told you. So, when you think about it, nicotine can be helpful for some people, but it's not likely because you can get addicted to it. And so in the end, it wasn't ever really worth it. And the overall characteristics of nicotine is very bad for your body. Putting it in can mess it up. I've seen people that have holes in their lungs from smoking it, and they just don't worry about it. You get lung cancer from smoking, and they just don't worry about it because they see life now. They don't see life in the future. And many schools don't allow it, but little vapes that you can use, teachers can't detect that. They can't see the smoke. They can't smell it. So most kids do get away with using nicotine in school, which could also hurt your body. And even in sports, it can hurt your body. Any time you use nicotine, it hurts your body because in the long run, it has long-lasting effects on it that you don't know about. And in conclusion, many people know the problems of nicotine, but they don't care. I have seen many players that do not care about how nicotine can hurt their body. And in overall times, nicotine is bad for you. No matter if someone does say using a nicotine patch boosts your energy. Well, if you have to have that boost of energy for every game, and you have to have a nicotine patch for every game, what is that saying about you? Are you really that good of a player? Or are you relying on that little high you get from nicotine to help you out? So before you use nicotine next time, think about the long-term causes it could have on your body and not just the short-term. And this is my visual aid. It shows the amount of players that use nicotine in sports. Bodybuilding is a great amount. Athletics is huge. Weightlifting is huge. Cycling is huge. Powerlifting is huge. Football isn't that big. Rugby isn't that big. Boxing isn't that big. Wrestling isn't that big. And basketball is really small. But then there's another sport right over here that is 490. So bodybuilding does have 270. Athletics have 2. Weightlifting has 239. Cycling has 200. Powerlifting has 110. Football has 108. Rugby has 80. Boxing has 66. And wrestling has 57.